Well, we did it. It was over 3 years ago that Maddie and I met up and decided, hey, let's shoot some short films together. Let's make some stuff. And then the pandemic shut everything down. But to Maddie's credit, he reached out again this spring and said, hey, if we're going to do anything, we just got to do it. So I met up with Maddie and Tyler, and he was thinking, I got this merchandise brand, this label. Maybe we could do something with that. It's something we call a spec ad. It wasn't really about selling shorts. It was an excuse to make something. And so sort of like an ad agency would talk to a client, I asked them about the benefit, and the whole deal with these shorts is that they have a zipper pocket, so it keeps important stuff from falling out. So I went away and just came up with ideas. Coming up with ideas is weird. I don't know how it works. I do it, and I do it professionally, but I still don't know how it works. And I had a bunch of ideas, probably like 15 ideas I could have turned into scripts, but I picked the top 7 ideas and took Maddie and Tyler through them. The one idea that I decided to include it, even though before the meeting I thought, we're never going to make this, but I should just show them anyways. It was this story about a Sasquatch who finds all this stuff this guy loses out of his pockets and starts to take over his life. I laughed while I was writing it. They laughed while I was telling them, and we just kind of all agreed that we had to do it. I had a scene in an airport. It just didn't seem doable, but we just figured it out. I originally imagined that at the end of the spot, the dad comes home and catches the Sasquatch and his wife in bed. But I took that out for the meeting and just had the story end with the family choosing the Sasquatch over the husband. I thought that was funny. So we were okay with that, but in the back of my head as we were doing pre-production, I'm like, I need something else. I need something else. And then finally, I had this idea that we cut to the Sasquatch love child, and then I changed the airport scene into a more backwoods border crossing. So we had our script. We had sort of our idea that we wanted to make. We all agreed, this is it, let's do it. So we really started pre-production. The very first thing I do is I make storyboards. Boards is a really good process for me to figure out the shots I need. It's the way that I can speak to my team through pictures and make sure we're all on the same page. It doesn't have to be good storyboards. It can be stick men or really bad chicken scratch like I have. Then we bring on a line producer. I brought on Aaron, who's line produced tons of commercial jobs for me in the past. They're the ones putting the job together. They're the ones booking crew and making sure we're on budget, gear is there, and all of this stuff. So I brought on Ian, our cinematographer. I worked with him on a bunch of commercials, and we have a good working relationship. I brought on Kent, who's an AD, assistant director. They're the ones who are actually calling action and cut on set. But more importantly, he is basically the left brain of the director, making sure we're on schedule, that our day is arranged most efficiently, making sure all of our talent is getting processed properly. And then I asked Chris, one of my best friends, we went to graphic design school together. He's a super detail-oriented guy, and I brought him on to be my art director, in charge of everything that you see in the frame. 2 key team leaders underneath the director is your production designer and your cinematographer. They work together to make your images beautiful. So I've got a bit of a team. I've got boards. The next step I needed to do was figure out locations. We could either shoot near Toronto, where a lot of my crew is coming from. Toronto locations are going to be $2,000 each, and then we're going to have to pack up our gear and do what we call a unit move between each location, and that would have killed our day. So the first big decision I made was to shoot locally near me. Had this location in mind. It's got a trail through the forest. There's a house on the property with a usable kitchen. My sister's house we used for the exterior because it looked a little more traditional house. And I knew there was a pump house on the property that we could dress as sort of a backwoods border crossing station. So I locked in that location. That was sort of the lesser of 2 evils. I had to force everyone to travel down.
Where are we, Tyler?
No idea where we are, but I'm wearing the correct...
Yeah, you're definitely wearing you're on brand over here.
But once they were on the location, we shot out our day there. So this is about time on a production where you do a tech scout. And a tech scout is where you have those key people. These are the people who are making the day happen. So the key thing about a tech scout is you essentially go through your shots. And then once you have those shots, your DP knows where to put a light. Hint, my AD, and he's looking at, which order do we want to shoot things in. We do have a baby on set. And so our first shot was the baby. So the baby's nice and fresh, and they build the plan that they're going to execute on the day. The other big decision to make was, do I cast in Toronto and have people travel down and ask favors of casting directors who have cast people for me in the past? But I decided to just keep it local. I spoke with Heather, who we ended up casting as our border guard, and she connected me with Robin and Robin's kids who homeschooled so they could come and shoot on a weekday. And I had Robin audition with her kids just to make sure, we'd run through the scene a few times before they got to set, because I knew it was going to be a really busy day. And I had a few people audition for the dad's role. Adam just blew me away with his audition, so I had to choose him. One of the amazing serendipitous things with this location is that Jonah, who played our Sasquatch, lives there. It's his family farm. I hadn't seen him perform, but I know he's been on TV, did work with Cirque du Soleil. And I knew he had Buster Keaton books up on his shelf, and which is a really great sign. And knowing how sweet and gracious of a person he is, I just sort of took a chance and said, can you do it? And his performance blew me away. His scene where he's in the car, looking over his shoulder while he goes forward. That all came from Jonah. I didn't direct a speck of that. He just went off and started doing that, and I was just over the moon. So the thing that really was the place for investment in this commercial was our Sasquatch, and specifically his face. We found a special effects, prosthetics, hair and makeup artist, Sean. I was nervous talking to him because I'm a nobody, and he's working on big Hollywood productions. Called him and talked to him on the phone, super insecure, and he was excited to help out. You can tell he's just so passionate about what he does. Sean helped source the wig, the beards, told us which prosthetic pieces, a brow and a nose to order. Whitney, someone he works with, was the actual prosthetics makeup artist on the day. The other thing Sean helped us source was Sasquatch gloves, left over from a big Hollywood production. So if you see a movie come out about Sasquatches, we had some extra gloves from that production. The gloves themselves were pretty expensive, but I knew we had some close-ups of hands and things. And again, it's about investing in what's going to be on screen. I had Chris help me out with the wardrobe for our talent as well. We've been friends for a long time. When I first met him, he showed me some ring wraith gloves that he made from Lord of the Rings. They're so good that they could be in the movie. So I knew how good of a craftsperson he is. Both he and I love just solving creative problems. We got to figure it out. So Chris is great with costume, and he helped us get this fresh, clean internet creature outfit and add some texture and shape to it. He couldn't help but make some detachable nipples, polymer clay.
Are there nipples on that?
There sure are.
And my wife helped tailor the suit so it didn't look like a pair of baggy jeans on our Sasquatch. It needed to be fur that's attached to him. There are a few giveaways, but we were working with what we had. I ordered a red silk robe because I wanted it to be sort of a romantic moment. I ordered a jacket for him to wear, sort of like in his path of becoming domesticated. Chris worked really hard on Adam, our dad's wardrobe. We had duplicate wardrobe, a clean wardrobe for his scene riding the mountain bike, set of distressed wardrobe for the scene when he comes home ragged. He's dragged himself home. Chris went to town. In fact, when we were shooting, when we framed up the shot of Adam, the shorts weren't in frame, and I could sense Chris's heart breaking. And I asked Ian, our cinematographer, how do we get the shorts in the shot? So Ian came up with that shot where we sweep up Adam and we get a full look at him. And it's one of my favorite shots in the spot. For the border guard, I sourced a shirt at a workwear liquidation place locally and talked to a friend and got a police vest. I had an old radio laying around that we put on her uniform, and Chris spent a lot of time making a hat for her. We couldn't find I forget what it's called, the kind of hat. The border scene is a really great thing to talk about art. Chris did so well dressing this pump house, which we started with nothing, and turning it into this sort of little government little booth. He sourced this pegboard that we put around the walls and put like boring ceiling tiles from Home Depot up there. The actual border arm was pretty cool. It's just reflective tape on Home Depot baseboard that we put on a pivot that my son had built for some contraption. In the shot, Chris is just out of the frame, pushing down and lifting that up. So not everything has to be perfect. You just need to make the shot. I knew on our Sasquatch's story that just before he gets to the house at the end, he has a Frappuccino, the cheesiest domesticated thing he could be drinking at this moment. A couple of videos ago, I had to make a 7-Eleven style slushie for a photo shoot. I ended up using a diaper. So I used that same technique again, added some brown food coloring thinking it would look coffee-ish, but it just looked like a root beer slushie. So I ended up adding latex paint. And then my daughter took this milky slush that I had made and made a fake whipped cream swirl on it. But it looks really great. One of the biggest props we needed, because we needed a close-up, was the passport. Chris made up his own foil crest. I used my wife's Cricut. He pressed that onto an old passport back. The inside page, I had to do a photo shoot for that. And Chris found this iridescent foil that we could cut out with the Cricut. So just like details that really sell it, because a bad prop can take you out of the story. You don't want it to stand out too much. You want it just to be believable. The keys we built, if we had not thought about keys until the shoot day, everyone would have probably had a keyless fob or something. I put together a keychain with some old keys and an old leather strap that I made. We needed that jingle. We needed him to hold a key to say, these are keys. You need a quick read. Other props that were really important were the blackberry bush. There's this viral video going around with a rabbit eating strawberries, but they're very obviously stuck on a plant that is not a strawberry plant. I found some blackberry bushes. I pointed them out to Chris. So on the day, he brought those over with his team. He had a few PAs helping him out, and he put store-bought blackberries over top of the existing blackberries that weren't ripe yet. And it just worked perfectly. It just sells. All of these details, hundreds of moving parts, is very stressful. If you watched the last video, I talked about how complicated it is to make something. It's why I'm way less critical about films I don't like or don't enjoy, because I know how hard it is to make anything. So it's sexy to be on set calling action and cut and all of that and being caught up in the hype of the day. A lot of people might think, no, I want to wing it and it's just going to be beautiful. We're just going to vibe. We're going to vibe all day. But if you're trying to tell a story clearly, you can't do that. All it is an excuse to not do your homework.